I work at the vote bailouts, which means we get your votes and we separate them. So if some of these votes happen to say, like this one, Donald J. Dumb Trump, that one just don't make it towards the mail. As some of you guys know, I work.
Okay, so I'm Gemma, as everybody on my group knows, and I was just shopping in a unknown hardware store, and I happened to run into the lovely, was it Alyssa?
Yeah, it's
Alyssa, and I happened to tell her my vote hasn't been counted. And what did you just tell me?
My dog voted in the 2020 election.
And how did you find this out?
I got an email that now won't open because the server is down, apparently. So now she has her microchip number as her social security. I went to the voting place, looked under her name and everything, told them her social security number. All of her vet records are gone now. And she had already voted.
And can you tell everybody a little bit about why your dog would be registered to vote? She is a service dog, correct?
She's registered service dog through the Santa Cruz County Police Department and Cabrillo.
And so now she's been labeled a human.
Yeah. And I'm
so her dog,
sure because she's a student.
So her dog because her dog is a service dog and was listed as a student at Cabrillo College, correct?
Yeah.
Her dog was listed as a human, registered to vote. So you called them, right? Or you contacted them that your dog got a voter registration, and they said, what did they say?
They said that she had already voted.
So your 2.5-year-old Labrador mix had already voted.
Yeah.
Who'd she vote for?
I am not sure.
She better vote for Trump.
I am really not sure who she voted for, but yeah, it was listed as a mail-in. I had a little trouble finding her through the voter registration because I didn't know the birth date they gave her.
Oh my God, this is just.
So I had to look under social security number.
And how old did they have her listed as?
She was just 18.
So she was listed as 18. What's her actual age in dog years?
She's in dog years.
So 2.5, right?
She's
well,
about,
I don't mean dog years, but like if you took your dog to the vet and they asked you how old's your dog, how old would they say?
She was born 2017.
Okay, so she's 2.5 to 3 years old. Yeah. They have her registered as an 18-year-old college student at Cabrillo who voted.
Under Maggie Magoo-Vella.
Maggie Magoo-Vella. Your dog voted.
Yeah.
So they registered your dog to vote.
Yeah. They voted too. Through mail.
So that my vote hasn't even been counted, and your dog
hasn't been counted either.
And you're telling. Okay, so my vote hasn't been counted, your vote hasn't been counted, but your dog was able to vote, and it's registered.
Yeah, hers went through.
This is awesome! Okay, so if this is not fraud, Maggie Magoo-Vella, your dog's name is Maggie Vella, and she voted for President of the United States for the 2020 election between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Okay, well, I think that says enough. I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you for your time. All right.
I am the Postal Employee who came out and whistle blew on the Erie, PA Postal Service, Postal Office. I am right at this very moment looking at an article written by Washington Post. It says that I fabricated the allegations of ballot tampering. I'm here to say that I did not recant my statements. That did not happen. That is not what happened. And you will find out tomorrow. And I would like that the Washington Post recant their wonderful little article that they decided to throw out there out of random.
Many critical states, including massive victories in Florida, Iowa, Indiana, Ohio, Okay, here we are again in the unusual position of not only interrupting the President of the United States, but correcting the President of the United States. And Ari Melber, don't go far. Given that you are our chief legal correspondent, there are no illegal votes that we know of. There has been no Trump victory that we know of.
They shut down the count so that they could reconfigure the situation so that representatives from the Democrats and the Republicans could stand not within 12 feet, but within 6 feet of the count. That change was made, and then they were planning to restart. He said that if you could take him out of my ear, please. He said they wanted to wait until after the election and then find extra votes for him. There is no evidence that this is true, and he's offered no evidence to support it.
This election is not over. Far from it.
Kelly McEnany right now spelling out the Republican National Committee's plan to fight what's been going on in some states, notably Pennsylvania, with the vote count. Let's listen in.
We want every legal vote to be counted, and we want every illegal vote to be...
I just think we have to be very clear. She's charging, the other side is welcoming fraud and welcoming illegal voting. Unless she has more details to back that up, I can't in good countenance continue showing you this. I want to make sure that maybe they do have something to back that up, but that's an explosive charge to make, that the other side is effectively rigging and cheating. If she does bring proof of that, of course, we'll take you back.
Trey Traynor is the chair of the Federal Election Commission, which oversees public funding in presidential elections. Trey, thanks so much for joining me here. I'll start with this. What is your reaction to what's happening in Pennsylvania? Do you believe, or do you know, are observers able to watch the ballots being counted, as Pam Bondi pushed back on?
Well, based upon what I know, observers have not been allowed into the polling locations in a meaningful way as required by the court order that the Trump campaign received. When they have been allowed in, the goalpost has been moved. They were supposed to be allowed within 6 feet of the ballots, and they have not been allowed that meaningful access. And our whole political system is based upon transparency to avoid the appearance of corruption. And that's what we do at the FEC every day. And now we're seeing this play out in Pennsylvania and other states where there's not transparency in this election.
Trey, as we move forward in modern times, everyone has a cell phone. There's video just about everywhere. You could see just about everything. And the video we just showed earlier appears to show someone filling out the ballot at the table. There's so many videos out there. And again, we have to confirm all this stuff. But do you believe there is voter fraud out there, specifically in Pennsylvania and other states that are weighing heavily in on this election?
I do believe that there's voter fraud taking place in these places. Otherwise, they would allow the observers to go in. When you have claims of, 10,000 people who don't live in the state of Nevada having voted in Nevada, you have the video showing where people are, they're either duplicating a spoiled ballot right there, or they're in the process of just marking a ballot that came in blank. For a voter. That's a process that needs to be observed by election observers. State law allows those observers to be in there. And if they're not, then the law is not being followed, making this an illegitimate election.
All right, let's go back to that video if we can. The video we're watching there, if he's filling out the ballot on the top right there, so this would be fraud, Trey.
If he is filling out that ballot, yes. Now, sometimes they go through a process of duplicating a ballot when a ballot can't be fit into a voting machine because it's torn up, and we don't know if that's happening here. But if he's absolutely marking these ballots as just blank ballots that came in that didn't have votes, then that would be a voter fraud.
He seems to be working that pin up and down on that sheet very intently there. And it's not the only video that we've seen. There's so much out there as well. And I'm sure this will be presented at a later date and perhaps for the court system to find out. But what about this? The fact that more than a dozen down ballot Republicans scored huge victories on election night. But the person at the top of the ticket, President Trump, seeing his margins in places like Georgia, Pennsylvania, continue to shrink by the hour, most notably around 4 a.m. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you look back at 1871, it was Boss Tweed who said, I don't care who votes as long as I get to be the one who counts the votes. And sometimes that's also attributed to Joseph Stalin, but I think he was probably quoting Boss Tweed at the time. In every instance we have here where the states are too close to call, they're controlled by the Democrat Party, particularly in the urban areas where they're being counted. And it just seems unimaginable to me that you could have down ballot races where Republicans are winning across the board. And that happened across the country. The Democrats failed to flip any state legislature, failed to win any seats in Congress, in the U.S. House, and yet the president is losing in all of these states.
There's so many questions, and that's all we're doing. We're asking the questions about it because they are there. And so is the president's son, Don Jr. He actually tweeted this out this morning. He said this: "When America sees everything we are uncovering, they will be disgusted, and even the media won't be able to pretend voter fraud isn't real. Ending this crap once and for all will be fundamental to preserving our republic and faith in our democracy." So, Trey, my question is this for you. Have you yourself or anyone on your team, have you been briefed on any of this evidence they say they have been uncovering beyond what the public is already reporting in the videos we've seen? What have you heard? What have you been briefed on?
Well, we really haven't been briefed on any of it, given that we don't, the states control the elections and the FEC really doesn't have any jurisdiction over how these are being handled at the state level. For the federal level, they would communicate through the Elections Assistance Commission. But from what I've seen of the lawsuits, there are very valid allegations that are being made that need to be fully vetted by the court system. And ultimately, we're probably going to see these things end up in the U.S. Supreme Court with various challenges under the 14th Amendment.
Yeah, this is what we thought that we'd see. Pack your patience. Last question for you. I know that you said that you wanted Democrats rather, wanted to limit money in politics, but spent $100 million each against McConnell and in South Carolina, Lindsey Graham. Additionally, Bloomberg blew $100 million in Florida. That didn't work out. Can you expand on that for me?
Well, we've seen the big issue for the Democrats when they took control of Congress was H.R. 1, and they want to limit the amount of participation via money in politics, and yet they were the biggest spenders in this election cycle. When you have over $300 million being spent by one party to take out one state and two sitting incumbent senators, it's just, to me, seems like they're speaking out of both sides of their mouth. Where they say they want to have change in our electoral system and limiting money in politics, and then they become the big spenders in the process.
All right, Trey Traynor, it's always great to see you, sir. I know you're a busy guy. We appreciate your time. Thank you, Trey.
Thank you for having me.
What we think the pattern should be around the straight party vote line, you find out about 20,000 votes were taken from Trump and 20,000 votes were given to Biden for a 40,000 Biden lead in the Oakland early voting. Okay, just one county. So that's what you see here. Now, more importantly, if you notice, I've drawn these orange lines. So what you notice is this phenomenon, if you actually look below 20%, Trump was actually getting more votes than Republican candidates, right? All the way up to 20%. You see he was getting close to 7% more votes than his other Republican counterparts. But for some reason, which we'll talk about, right at 20%, it looks like his vote counts start getting linearly reduced. And if you look at this curve, and I've looked at lots of curves, Benny, you've seen a lot of these curves, Phil, right? Any one of us who's in the pattern analysis business, when you see this, it's immediately, if you look at these, you say something's up, okay? This is too structured, right? Too perfect.
Yeah.
What is that, Benny?
Too perfect.
Too perfect. Okay. We in data analysis, pattern analysis, if you're in AI, you look for features like these because it lets you build an algorithm, right? This is easy. So this beautiful curve hits flat and boom, it drops in a nice linear fashion, as though an algorithm was there as you went across, votes were getting cut by Trump. And that's what we see here. And remember, we've talked about it. The election systems, going back to Diebold, right, Benny? They have the feature of being able to manipulate vote counts from one person to another. It's called a weighted race feature. So you see it here. Now, is it only in Oakland County and early voting? Well, let's look here. Here's election day voting. Right, Phil, this is election day we're looking at. And you see the same thing. Election day, there's around 20,000 votes. 10,000, Trump's votes are reduced by 10,000, and Biden's votes were increased by 10,000 here. But look at this pattern. Same thing. It's around 7%, and boom. Okay? Slope looks pretty damn close, doesn't it, Phil, Benny?
Yep.
Looks very, very close. Okay? On a different time. The reason this is important is this is in one time period.
How would your coworkers, peers describe you?
As somebody who never gives up. We never give up. We can never give up, right? Never.